The only constant is change. And change we must, because change is an imperative ingredient in progress. As we try to anticipate, assume, and analyze the possibilities, challenges, and opportunities in the post-COVID environment, making us meet and greet the new normal. Thank you for joining us today. First of all, let me introduce our hosts. Along with us from the Adams University, we've got Professor Mrityunjoy Chatterjee, Professor and Dean, School of Liberal Arts and Cultural Studies, noted journalist turned academic administrator. Professor Chatterjee is presently working as Dean, School of Liberal Arts and Cultural Studies at the university. Having worked across media for 23 years, Professor Chatterjee has already made responsible positions in news agencies, print and television. He's also a certified corporate trainer and a motivational speaker. Then my favorite, Mr. Sandeep K. Banerjee. He's from the university himself, Adams University. He's the group president there. And his passion is education, counseling, and communication. He's an award-winning professional with 29 years of experience in branding, business development, client relationship management, channel management, person and people management, and vocational and formal organizations. He's also been, an out-of-the-box thinker with a proven track record of increasing revenues and streamlining workflows, as well as creating a teamwork environment to enhance productivity. Thank you for joining us, sir. Also joining us are some very, very special guests. Mr. Sudhakar Rao, he's Director Branding at the ICFI Group, graduate in mechanical engineering at the graduate level, who went to IIM Bangalore for his PG, and has recently completed a specialized program in design thinking in MIT Sloan School of Management. Sudhakar has started his career as a brand manager and moved up as the SBU head and director. He's an outstanding professional. I know that personally as well as professionally. In a career spanning over 20 years, Sudhakar played multiple roles of branding, marketing, corporate relations, international operations, to name a few. In the last decades, he's dealt with sectors like textiles, food, education, where he's not only launched many brands, but also nurtured them towards their rightful position in the marketplace. He's also the co-chair for the education subcommittee in FICCI in Telangana State. The areas of interest include innovation, technology, entrepreneurship, diversity, inclusiveness, design thinking, apart from branding. Professor Dr. Harcharan Singh Dhaliwal is also one of our special guests from the Eternal University. He's the Vice Chancellor there. Thank you, sir, for joining us. 50 years of teaching and research experience. Retirement from IIT Roorkee in 2011. He joined the university as a professor of biotech and is now its Vice Chancellor for the last 7 years. He's guided 20 PhD and as many as MSc students. Has published more than 250 original research articles. He's carried out 30 research programs funded by national and international research organizations and has actively participated in several task forces. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us. It's a privilege and an honor. Dr. Devendra Pathak is also our special guest of Om Sterling University. He's the Vice Chancellor there, 47 years of a massive experience in the field of education, work, relations development program in the areas of project evaluation, demographic studies, manpower planning, among others. He's won many prestigious awards, including one of the most influential VCs of India, the Indira Gandhi Excellence Awards for Outstanding Achievement in Higher Education. What a pleasure to have you, Dr. Pathak, with us today. Also a very special guest, Professor Alok Pandey, Director of IS Institute of Management Studies, IMS in Ghaziabad. He's been a member of the Governing Council of IMS. He's an independent director on the board of CSC, E-Governance Services India Limited, which is, of course, the Ministry of Electronics and IT of the government. He's a member of the key corporate governance committees, board of directors since 2017. In addition, he's a member of the Education Committee of the Confederation of Indian Industry and on the board of several other non-profit bodies. He has to his credit over 24 research articles in peer-reviewed ABDC and Scopus index journals. He's authored and edited 4 books published by international publishers. He's an outstanding speaker and analyst. What a pleasure to have you, sir, with us. Then Savita Das, principal of Chaktaha Model School, 10 years experience. This is a list of principals now that we have, a very special list of invitees with us. Chaktaha Model School in West Bengal. Today, of course, we are concentrated on the eastern part of this country. We've been doing white paper from state to state, from city to city, and today our focus is the east of India. Mr. Deepu Sharma is principal of the Gyanam Academy Vishwanath in Assam, a leading educational institute in Behali. He's postgraduate with a special degree of B.Ed as well as DEIED. He has been awarded Bharat Ratna, Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar National Award 2018 and Northeast Shiksha Ratna Award 2019, organized by the All India Journalists Union. What a pleasure to have you, sir, with us. Then we've got Mr. Dwijen Mahanta. He's principal of Chariali Girls Higher Secondary School in Assam. He's an actor as well, a photographer, and the principal joined as a subject teacher of economics at Dekurai High School and transferred to Chariali and the HS and MP school. Lovely to have you, sir, with us. Then we've blessed to have Suvalakshmi Bhattacharya, Vice Principal of Haryana Vidya Mandir, where she's held earlier positions, apart from the current one, in senior school coordination in the HOD English, and she's been the house mistress of the CBSE board examiner for the last 23 years. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. Mr. Pala Shaha, principal of Sudhir Memorial Institute in Madhyagram, Kolkata. He's a defense background, has done MSc in physics. Presently, he's working as the principal of Sudhir Memorial Institute, Madhyagram in Kolkata. It's CBSE affiliated school, altogether experience of 20 years in the field of education. And also finally, my final lady on my list, Rituparna Bose. Ma'am, thank you for joining us, HOD and Technical Coordinator of the K.E. Carmel Group of Schools in West Bengal. She's a B.Ed postgraduate in English, Technical Coordinator and Head of the Department of English at the K.E. Carmel Group of Schools. She's a teacher and a motivational trainer for the last 12 years. She's been training and with administrative work as well, developing study materials, micro-schedule. She's dedicated is to provide students with appropriate learning activities, adventures designed to fulfill their potential for emotional, intellectual, social, as well as physical growth. She wants to enable students to develop skills to function successfully for their future. Thank you, all of you, for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Very special webinar with us. This is our episode number 20. As I told you a little while earlier, we are going state by state, we're going city by city, all of us, and we're developing an ecosphere with students, parents, teachers, principals, as well as luminaries and vice principals to try and understand what is going to be the state of Indian education going forward. This I will submit personally as a white paper to the Government of India in about 90 days from now. So thank you very much for being a part of this very prestigious process. The big news is from the CBSE, which has scrapped the Class 10 and Class 12 board examination. Is that the correct decision? The first thing I'm going to do is going to go across to the school principals and ask their reaction on the scrapping of the Class 10 and the Class 12 board examinations. Was it the best decision to be made? The reason why I ask this question is simply because it required the Supreme Court to take several days of deferment before they decided, which means that there was a lot of friction, a lot of conflict, a lot of debate, a lot of issues at hand to consider. So let me start with Rituparna Bose and get a purview from her. Do you agree, ma'am, that the examination should have been scrapped, and does it impact anybody negatively at all?
It is a big problem now because the students who had one mindset that they are going to appear for boards and they were, prepared and they were aspiring some good result. And moreover, for ICSE students, I must say, as I belong to a school of ICSE board, so for the students, it is their first exam, first biggest exam of their life. So obviously, they were mentally prepared to appear or face that. And the indecisions that they are facing now, they are neither in class 10, they are not in class 11. So in between, they are really lost.
The class 10 students, I feel, they would not mind so much because, it is, they were in a phase of uncertainty and now they're out of it. They know for sure that, all right, we cannot take the exams, and most of them have taken admission in the school, in their own school or somewhere else. Yes, it would have been their first public exam and they would have liked to assess themselves. That is not there, but otherwise, I think for the class 10 students, it's not so much of an issue as it is for the class 12 students.
Quite true. In fact, everybody, when they study 5 papers, they obviously have their strengths and weaknesses. There would be a lot of people who would require the exams to be held to actually test out their strengths, and they may feel slightly shortchanged by the entire environment. There are another crop of people who actually have only given 1 exam out of 5. And for them, the other 4, they just feel that perhaps they'll be marked in a very arbitrary manner because they may not have done well in the first exam. So it is obviously, it's not discriminatory, but it could be disadvantages for many.
But the area from which we belong, it's a state board, and already the class 10 and class 12 examination has been held and results been declared. Now the dilemma with the students are that where to take the admission. Most of the students who are very aspiring for a very good career, but they are not able to take admission in good colleges outside their place. That is the main problem with them.
One final school voice from Savita Das, who's principal of Chaktaha Model School. So we've got a bit of a diverse opinion about those who are pro the scrapping of exams, and several of our principals who are not particularly in favor of it. Which side do you weigh and why?
And my point of view is that this is the totally unprecedented situation we are going, everybody. And one more thing, that this pandemic has made us become to accept the challenge. And I have talked with my students. They are too much feeling insecure about their health.
The reason was I wanted to set up this conversation from the side of those educationists whose students are experiencing these problems. And now moving on to those who will be receiving those students, right? Institutions like yours and others. Now, you heard the point of view. Would you like to weigh in as to where do you think there was a possibility of any different opinion from the Supreme Court? Because obviously there was a high debate, there were arguments on both sides, and in a situation like this, one side had to be left wanting. Do you think the decision is right?
What I feel really, by and large, all the governments of different states, they have come to finally a conclusion that exams will have to be scrapped. It's not possible to hold the exams in a physical manner that has been customarily that we have been holding it. Haryana government also, they have already advised us that you need not go for the face-to-face exam. It has to be a auto-promotion mode has to be adopted by all the colleges and all the universities. So the only solution probably, earlier the UGC came that 40% only certain colleges, they will be permitting only 40% online classes and 60% will be physical classes. But now finally it is converging that probably the only solution lies that at least for this academic session, say up to December, we should go only for the online teaching.
Professor Harcharan Singh Dhaliwalji, will this in any way, now what is the decision has been taken, is it going to change or alter the assessment process, the admission process of the universities and colleges?
I don't think it's really going to affect the admission of universities, but again, by scrapping the CBSE exam, the 10 plus 2, etc., is not going to affect at all the bright students who are going to seek admissions in professional classes like engineering, medicine, veterinary, or in some of the, one of the best colleges or universities of the country, where the admission is always through the entrance test. So these tests are always only the essential qualification. You have to have 50% marks. Rest of that, your admission depends only on your performance in all these entrance tests. So I don't think really for mediocre student, the scrapping of these tests is any way going to affect their admission. 1/3 student in the country are expecting their final degrees, postgraduate degrees, and these degrees, again we have big problem, and that's another issue you probably have. That is agenda 2 to discuss, then I'll like to come again to discuss that issue as well.
Well, thank you very much. Interesting demarcation between the bright students and the lesser bright students, and the advantages and disadvantages there. That's one way of looking at it, and I think a very insightful way. Professor Alok Pandey, you worked very closely with the government. You've been on several bodies. Could you elaborate on the thinking of the government in this regard? Because obviously there was, a lot of internal debate before the decision was taken by the Supreme Court, although, of course, the government influence was paramount.
Thank you, Chetan, and thank you for inviting me here. Let me tell you, one of the biggest problems which educationists don't think in India is that we still are a country which has an education system created by Macaulay and Bentinck. So Lord William Bentinck and Lord Macaulay gave us something that, please produce clerks for the Britishers, and our education system largely produces clerks for the country. And of course, we as teachers who work with the systems, often we are told that, teachers talk too much. By whom? The bureaucrats. So when you look at the bureaucracy, often the decision making is not on a very strong footing. In our country, what happens, a joint secretary level officer comes in, another joint secretary sits on his side. Initially, ICMR Director General used to sit next to them, and now nobody comes. So, rest assured that the decisions which have been taken, wherever they've been taken, the examination cancellation decision is largely a Supreme Court decision. The government has nothing to do with it. Even then, the Karnataka government is organizing its class 12th exams. CBSE has also given a choice for the exam. It is only a very small board called ICSE board, which is a very minuscule proportion, probably 70,000 students appearing in its exam, which has said is going to use. For 10th, probably CBSE has followed the code guidelines, but for 12th, they have given the idea. The second part of it is that when was and which government of this country was interested in education? You've been spending the lowest per capita GDP on education for the last 70 years. It's 3% of your GDP, and this 3% of GDP is for a population of 140 crore people. Now, the point is, as you go ahead at looking at the way we look at education in India, it's not a priority. So you have initially public universities, which are now in a very poor state of affairs because of fiscal and financial indiscipline. Now, in any case, for last 30, 40, 50 years, our universities have only printed degrees. And this is akin to, inflation in the economies when you print notes. So the fact is, this COVID crisis is a wonderful way to look at where we were, what it has done to us, and what should we do. But rest assured, our decisions are not very thoughtful. They are not very research oriented. Once again, whose education are we talking about? Are we talking about 500 million lower middle class people, upper income people? Or will we ever talk about the remaining 800 million people who are on the roads during the COVID disaster? So the fact is, somewhere down the line, education in India still is a preserve of the elite. It is the middle classes. The lower middle classes also don't get it. There's a very high fee structure in the private sector, and there's a very poor structure of the government system. This is a very serious debate, I believe. Thank you very much for organizing it. It's not about holding exams or not holding exams. It's about whether our education systems are specifically going to get out of the clutches of Lord Macaulay and Lord William Bentinck, and we'll stop producing clerks. Exams or no exams, they don't matter. You take the exams or don't take an exam. The quality of the student will remain the same.
The reason why we started out with it, because that is a problem for several of the schools, up at hand. But did you think a far more creative solution was possible at this stage, sir?
The strong message that we have sent is that we are not assessment obsessed. The assessment obsession is something different from education. Education is to learn for life, for lifetime as well. And in an unprecedented situation like this, if we can give up this obsession and focus on what is actually required for us, yes, this message of foregoing the examinations and not insisting on writing the examinations come what may is a very good message that we have all given. So as parents, as teachers, as institutions, and as government and regulators, all of us have together given this very interesting message. When situations like this affect us, it's very easy to blame governments. It's very easy to blame people around. Yes, they have made mistakes and we need to blame them. While that is right, the kids at home are actually watching us. We are the role models right there. What kind of decisions for home we have taken, what kind of decisions for society and the neighborhood that we have taken, we have watched constantly. It's not just a regular tool that has been actually put in your face and then the lectures are going on that is going to help us. It's not the tool, but it's the whole school. It's the platform. It's a way of thinking. Have we communicated to the student that we are a school even online? We are not just a tool. I think that's a very, very important thing that very few people have done. Just give the freedom to the teachers and the faculty members. They would come up with solutions that are extremely interesting. In the entire value chain that we have, who is closest to the student always? The closest to the student always is the teacher. Teacher is the architect of your technology. Teacher is the architect of your curriculum. Teacher is the architect of planning and inspiration for the student. I mean, I would like to very quickly share here that the three important phases in which this has emerged is one, first phase of confusion. What's happening? I didn't know what is going on, and then coming to terms with it, and then deciding to do something is phase one, settling down phase. The phase two was actually building up infrastructure phase, where people have latched onto any tools that were available and then reaching out to the student, because no teaching is not good. That was phase two. And phase three is basically a maturity phase where you will have to differentiate yourself. Every school, every college will have to continue to differentiate themselves by delivering what is expected of us in line with the school philosophy. So those who are at phase three much early in the game are the winners. And I'm sure all of us can do a self-evaluation and see where are we and which phase we are.
CIT, confusion leading to infrastructure development, and finally leading to differentiation, which is very critical. Sandeep K. Banerjee, the last word with you on our first segment. You've heard a variety of views on first starting with the board examination, then what the government need to do or could have done, and also what is the responsibility of educators, edupreneurs, and educrats. At Adamus, I know that you have a huge incubation of innovation. So where does your focus lie now when you've heard a variety of opinions?
Thank you, Chetan. Now, one thing which I loved when Mr. Rao was speaking about is that what are we talking about education? So first, the decision is right, but my understanding is the decision is delayed. And if we have delayed the decision, why did we wait for 3.5 months to decide what to do? The online training of education had started in the year 2010. The entire universe has moved into that. The entire assessment has moved into that. Why did we take 3 months' time to even realize that assessment cannot be done in this situation where we cannot put the country to risk? If we are apprehensive about what is going to happen to the future of students, it is our mindset. We are not in generation next. We have to look at generation next. We need to have ready solutions. That is where we lack. I think that's where we have to come through. And that is what is going to protect this nation. Intellectual capital of India, or the IQ level of Indian people and the Indian generation which is getting into education, where first generation educators are more. I think IQ is not a problem. The intelligence is not a problem. The base level is not a problem. But the approach. Yes, Dr. Rao also mentioned about something which I said, commit to memory, vomit to paper. Because external assessment, we are actually fooling the assessor. We mug up things and we write down to get marks, which helps me to get into education, higher education, which is incorrect. Today, cancellation of examination is opening up our eyes that we have not done our studies the way we should have done. You know, when we talk of a relationship of a teacher and a student, it is a relationship of a judgment. A teacher becomes a judge. I mean, in today's world, we cannot say that. I know of students who are more knowledgeable than what I am. Today we are talking of online education. The students are much, much ahead than what we are. The technology knowledge, they are much, much ahead. I mean, for heaven's sake, let's not put our mindsets into their heads.
You spoke about that this country has the IQ. It does. You said this country has the EQ. It does. Perhaps what's missing is an AQ, adaptability quotient, which needs flexibility, which needs you to think out of the box, is what you mentioned. And above all, I think the PQ factor, pragmatic quotient. You've got to be pragmatic and realistic to take this country forward. And pragmatism has to be steeped in practicality. I think is what Dr. Alok said also, what Sudhakar also said, somewhere down the line, we are stuck in a time warp history. And we need to move forward, but we have to start the process. We just cannot rely on what we've been handed down, because our next generation, the youngest generation in the world, needs that, if nothing else. But I'm going to take two more headlines of today, and then I'm going to come back to another raging debate on online education. Let's take a look at the two other big stories. This is on the university side. The UGC has notedly said it's against final examination. It wants the new term from October. And, well, Maharashtra has also said that there are no final exams for a professional as well as a non-professional course. These are the two stories that have come up today. I'll take a quick word from Mr. Pathak to understand, is he in favor of the fact that the new session can start in October, that, and of course, the UGC's recommendation of scrapping the final exams or the final year.
Education being the state subject and normally the university being enacted by the state governments. So all states, they have separate views. And now, as just now you have flashed the news that UGC also is of the opinion that only the new batch will start only from October. So really, October also I doubt. And the other one of our colleagues, he was arguing to why the government could not take decision 3 months or 3.5 months earlier. Did we know that this pandemic will take this much of dimension, or this will be creating so much of havoc? They were just thinking that really it will go within a few months, although the researchers and the many labs and many of the scientists, they had already predicted it is not going to be a short-term affair. But so having told all that, now the main question is that we as a custodian of the education in the university, how we are going to now conduct the classes. So can we wait for such time that the things will normalize and then we'll call all the students? That is not, really advisable. So we have to utilize the time very effectively, and let us see that how best we can reach to the students, how best we can prepare them, and mentally, and also the parents also, they also will have to be mentally prepared. And I feel really this will definitely lead to a different way, as we have to adjust ourselves and we have to really now have entirely a different teaching. That is all per second. Yeah.
How very true. You very interestingly, Dr. Pathak mentioned that education is a state subject. Sometimes it's a central subject. I just think it is none of. It should not be either of them. Education has to be a citizen subject, and the moment it becomes a citizen subject, it moves from a political subject to a social subject. And I think the character of education, unfortunately, is so steeped in politics that you have these debates at arbitrary levels with people who are not even connected to the education system and are so de-aligned and polarized with the people who are actually suffering that you have decisions which are taken at whims and then they're opposed simply because a politician has to oppose something from another political party. I think that's the state of affairs. But thank you for your insights. Very, very critical to let us know that, October also, we're not quite sure whether it will be possible. I'll have a quick reaction on that from Professor Dhaliwal.
There's no point of postponing the next academic session till October. Of course, we all have been caught by surprise during all these lockdowns. We are not prepared for online teaching, examination, but many of us have managed. So there is a very favorable proportion of 30% practical, 60 or 70% theory, etc. For theory, we have done wonderful job. There's no problem. But we have not been able to conduct the practical. We have not been able to help the postgraduate students for their project work, for their dissertation, etc. Final year students, which are almost 1/3 of all the total students going for higher education in all the private, all the public university institution, deemed university in the country.
Thank you for bringing that out. When the Prime Minister of the country goes on record to say that we have to learn to live with this pandemic, right? Not live with fear, but we learn to live with it in a safe, secure, and a pragmatic manner. And to build a self-reliant country, I think the message is very clear on the world. Now, one part of this entire debate, which has been raging in this country, has been online education. And the education department, in fact, the UGC Vice Chairman, Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan, he says that education should not be automated.
I've been patiently listening to across people. People are very worried exams not happening. Who are the most important people who suffer? Are the quality students. Most of the students are very happy. Exams are not happening, or they are also quite relieved that they have not to study for the exams further. They will be evaluated, and God willing and board willing, I think people will pass mostly. But the basic thing of quality judgment is the differentiating factor. The board is a very powerful organization, and why do we get ruled by people who don't understand education? 70 years of independence and education still gets less than 3% of the GDP. Are we really very serious about education? Do we really want to compete with the other emerging forces in the world? We are all talking about safety, security, and hiding away from Corona. Who gives me the assurance that in October Corona is going to go off? Corona is going to stay, and we have to. Why are we underestimating the quality and the judgmental ability of students? Why can't they also take measures? Why can't the schools also take measures? And education has to go on. This is not the correct way of delivering education in the country. Absolutely. I think every principal, every educationist will be with me on the same page on this part. Thank you.
I'm going to now quickly go across, each of our speakers and give them about a minute to talk about the online education part, because that's the big news that has just come out from the UGC, which says that education should not be automated. So the question is, should it not be automated? And if not, what is the option? Rituparna Bose, quickly, are you in favor of online education? More importantly, if you are you prepared for it?
Do we have any other choice, sir? So online education has become the only way out now. We are dedicated to provide quality education to the students of suburb areas. So the challenges are more for us. Initially the first biggest challenge that we all teachers are facing is to keep the students on board, while we have to keep them away from the other distractions of the social media and all. Secondly, this turning teaching materials into digital format at short notice has been a challenge, as only a few teachers have strong digital and ICT skills. Both teachers and students are facing internet connectivity problems most of the times, and still we are trying our best to provide them with the best education possible.
Subbalakshmi Bhattacharya, online education, a boon or a curse, and are you prepared for it?
Now, our primary concern in this present scenario is to ensure excellence in education in a very seismic era. And there are challenges for everybody, for all the stakeholders, the parents, the students, teachers, school management, the government. The virtual platform is the place where the teachers and the students are meeting. So that is the area that we need to strengthen. And strengthening the virtual platform, that is making it accessible for all categories of students in every nook and corner of the country. That should be the primary concern, and providing quality digital education. So that requires a lot of things. That also involves the upskilling of teachers, quality digital content, which of course CBSE is providing, like the Diksha app is there, the Diksha platform is there. which is a very rich repository of e-learning. So what we need to do is have this blended learning, innovative schooling, where the parents, the school, they have to come together, collaborate, so as to ensure that the children get the optimum kind of learning under the circumstances. We have to take care of the mental health of the children, which is of utmost importance in these circumstances.
We cannot maintain the equality among the students because some were rich and some were very poor who had not a single Android phone to contact with us. Even our teachers, 80% of teachers has no any Android mobile phone in our location. So it is, I think, impossible to continue the online teaching.
Thank you so much for bringing out that point of view. There are reasons why we have good men like you as a part of this this very important debate for this country. That is to highlight the divide which this country seems to be facing, particularly on the digital front. It's something which we cannot possibly allow to happen for the future progress of an all-inclusive society. And that's something which the government has to act very, very fast. Otherwise, we'll all be doing nothing but polished talk. And the very meaningful Bharat, not the India, the Bharat of this country will be shortchanged. We'll start with you, Alok Pandey. We'll have a brief take on what you've heard today. What are your key takeaways?
Thank you, Chetan. I think you have your plate full with too many speakers for this shorter time. But 2 points. One, beginning with Professor Dhaliwal. Government is wrong for delaying the session. They should immediately open the session. We have 150,000 people dying on road accidents. Do you stop driving? Do you stop riding two-wheelers? Diseases happen, and it's a very mild disease. It's just 2% mortality rate. What I really understand is that we have bungled on the issue of education. There's something called herd immunity. There's a data which has come from UK. It says the number of deaths in a society over a period of time, whether a pandemic or no pandemic, is always equal. So you lock down people, they'll die of pandemic, their immunity would go down. A lot of people who are diabetics or people who have cardiovascular disease will also die because they're in a lockdown situation. So young students have to be allowed to come out. The government is completely wrong on the issue of UGC, not saying that online is not a solution. They are wrong again. What is important is a blended learning solution. You need to have online education blended with learning management systems where both objective type, multiple choice questions can be asked from the students, and also you can have open book examination kind of things. And these are things which are being, MOOCs probably are not the best way to learn. But the worldwide exposure and worldwide research, I myself in my institution, I've got a fantastic library with almost every particular database and resource, and we did our final research projects of the second year in April through that. Every student was able to log into the library and he did the research. I did open book exam, no problems. I did midterm objective type exams, no problem. The only problem, and let me tell you, if the universities in India are postponing exams, they are doing exactly what the hospitals are doing. They are turning away patients because the doctors are not capable and they do not have the resources. So, let us learn that these are symptoms of a bigger problem, bigger malaise. You lack resources, so you say it is not possible. So what we need to do is that build up resources. You have 2, 3, 4, 5 years plan. Let me tell you one important point. Let the institutions begin.
Mr. Sudhakar Rao, your closing comments on what you've heard.
Online education must continue because it is the right to education and right to learn which we cannot take away from this generation. I think it is only the bankruptcy leadership which is fearing or shying away from opening the campuses and nothing else. We need to open campuses. Wherever you want to open, you do open. But before that, online education must go on. And we are compelled to bridge the digital gap now. There is no greater opportunity than this in order to actually measure up in terms of the infrastructure. My only request to the administration and to all the school leaders and education leaders is that we need to put the pressure back on the government and make them open it and face the challenge right there.
Of course, we have been education leader in the world in the, earlier times. And we also hear from our epics, Mahabharata, Ramayana, that Gurukul system has been the best for our holistic education of our youth. So, of course, we have been COVID-19 and all these lockdowns have proved as a blessing in disguise. We have had at the country level several meetings by HRD, by GUC together, and Delhi inviting all the vice chancellors, registrars, and others to get used to digital education.
Most people think it should be blended, Dr. Devendra Pathak. Your final views on that? Blended education is the future. It has to be a bit of physical and a bit of online as well, but you have to have flexibility.
What I feel, much as we wish, really, it's very, very difficult to be in the pre-normal position, or the new normal has to stay. Much as we wish that the students, they should be present in our campus, that's probably in the near future, it doesn't seem to be possible. It all depends on the time. Probably we'll have to wait for another 1 or 2 months. Meanwhile, the digital learning is the only solution to me. But then, as many of us, all of us have talked, the digital device is very, very wide. Only 42% penetration of internet is there in the urban areas and 14% in the rural areas. So that challenge, of course, is there, that how we are going to reach to the students. But meanwhile, for the schools, probably it may be possible that because they are having the majority of the students from the local area, they can request the students, they can come and they can probably safely, they can go back. But in university like us, but it is not only pan-India, from overseas also we are having so many students.
Sure.
Requesting them to come, and because many times we thought, well, we will send a message that let them come. But then we ourselves thought, well, it will not be prudent that we are calling them here because now transportation is not there, international flights are cancelled, and this pandemic probably is not going to end immediately. Yeah. So in these only the transmission of knowledge that is there. One advantage what I feel really, we agree that all our private universities, we don't have the good quality of teachers. In that, in the government efforts, although governments have made the efforts through NPTEL, and from the MOOC and from the SWAYAM or the SWAYAM Prabha or ePathshala, so many platforms they have already created, where really very brilliant lectures are uploaded there, and we can definitely get the advantage of it. And our students and teachers, they are getting advantage. So one advantage of the digital learning is that we can get the best of the lectures, best of the brains, best of the discussions, and best of the interactions, which really otherwise we are not having.
Anywhere in the world, it's place agnostic.
To be really, this is the only solution.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And final words from Shandip Da as well as Mrityunjay Da. Shandip Da, first you on blended education, and then of course,
I'm always in favor of blended education, but the education system should look at it a model which is an SPL, ILT, SPP model. Now just put it, I have just used the abbreviation, which is self-paced learning, then the ILT, which is instructor-led training, and then the SPP. If this is the model which is followed, the education will be 365 days into 24 hours. And the learning depth will be heavily inclined to make a student a right education-minded and proper foundation. I mean, the only requirement of India is we need infrastructure. We need several geos to come in to increase connectivity. That is where the challenge is. And I think that requires a government support.
See, futuristic learning is online learning. We can't deny it. But then this pandemic is not something that we cannot counter. But physical learning and contact hours are something which is a must for all levels of education.
Well, thank you so much. And then, that's what they say. It's when you talk about a lockdown, and you talk about unlocking, I think what needs to be unlocked is our thinking, is the human mind. That needs to be unlocked. And you need to follow the PPP model now. That's not the public-private participation model. When you unlock the mind, then you first become practical, then you become pragmatic, and then you become progressive. And that is the only way forward. And I often say that to deal with the big C of COVID, you've got to have 3 C's. You've got to be corrective, you've got to be collective, and you've got to be creative.